We're at the first waypoint along the way, and here you see the large road. Here is Harris Springs Road, and you see a small unpaved four-wheel drive road breaking off to the left. This is where we take that left and head on up toward the summit of La Madre Mountain. Let's take a look at where we are. This is what you can see from that point. Harris Springs Road, looking west. And then here is the Mount Charleston Wilderness, and you can see coming into view much more sharply. You can see Harris Mountain. I don't know if it's the first one or the second one back there. The second one back there might be the second high point, might be Griffith Peak. In the foreground, Harris Mountain. Not entirely sure. We'll know when we get closer. And then there's Mount Charleston and Fletcher Peak, the green tree-covered hill. It's actually over 10,000 feet in elevation, but behind it is Mummy Mountain, which is 11,500 feet. That's why I call Fletcher Peak a hill. And then looking around, if we went over this ridge right in front of us here, we would be on Kyle Canyon Road. And Harris Springs Road pretty much parallels Kyle Canyon Road, but it does deviate and begin to angle off to the south a bit. And then here you see coming into view the tip of the Sheep Range, and circling around here, looking straight down Harris Springs Road. Here is Gas Peak, that high point. And you can see the sun has done some more rising. It's totally in view. Beautiful Joshua tree forests all around us. Adds to the rugged desert atmosphere here. It took me about 30 to 40 minutes to run the trail up to this point, although I was going pretty slow because due to the 90-degree temperature in the Las Vegas Valley, I was thinking, this is going to be hotter than I'm used to up at this elevation, even though the high point, by the time I hit the high point on La Madre Mountain, still be around 70 degrees. I did load my backpack with up to 2 gallons of water. And it's always a question whether to bring lots of water or less water. On the lots of water side, you're less likely to run out of water. And the last thing you want to do on a day like today is run out of water. Boy, that would be brutal and perhaps life-threatening to have to cover some of this lower area on the way back, where we're going to be hitting around 85 degrees by the time we reach this point on the way back. Okay, so that's on the positive side, less likely to run out of water. On the negative side, you pack too much water in your backpack and you're carrying too much water. It creates a lot of resistance as you're running or walking, as you're proceeding forward, and you're sweating a little more, using up more water. You're taking a little longer, which uses up more water, and you're getting tired more quickly, which uses up more water. So there is a golden midpoint where you've got just enough water to make it through the heat, and yet not enough to slow you down and burn up all your energy and resources. So knowing where that golden point is, midpoint, is a challenge, because if you get it wrong on either side, it could be trouble. So you really have to experiment, see how much water your body needs for various temperatures and various levels of exertion, various distances. You almost have to get a whole lot of experience, and but it's something to put on your radar as you're doing adventures in the wilderness. You want to be asking yourself, how much water am I using? How much water do I need? What was the distance I traveled? What was the temperature, average temperature? And eventually you get a feel. I'm maybe, it's the start of the hot season here in Las Vegas, where the furnace turns on, and down in the valley temperatures can rise to 120 degrees. Yet with the 5 degrees per 2,000 feet, if it's 120 degrees in the Las Vegas Valley, it's about 80 degrees up here on Mount Charleston. So there's a lot of calculations that go into determining how much water do you need to carry with you. I'll just leave it at that for now. But be thinking about it. Be gauging water very intelligently. It'll make a big difference in your safety and your comfort during wilderness adventures. Okay, let's go ahead and head up this road. Today's theme, though, is how much water do you need in the desert? And the reason it's a theme today is that today it's about 20 degrees warmer than last time, 2 weeks ago, when I was on this route. And we are, as a matter of fact, in the Southwest. We're just outside Las Vegas. This, I believe, is part of the greater Mojave Desert. But let's take a look at the factors to determine how much water you need. It's not a simple answer. People will just say, bring lots of water. Okay, fine. That's like, get lots of education. Well, what kind of education do you need? There are lots of questions that seem simple, but when you begin to analyze them, they're pretty complex. So I'm just going to list some of the factors. Okay, there's a factor of the temperature, and not just the temperature where you start your adventure, but the temperature along the way. And there is an altitude differential today of about 4,000 feet from my starting point to La Madre Mountain. I don't know if I'll make the summit. We'll explore around there, but if I were on the summit, that's 4,000 feet higher than where I started. 8,000 feet is the summit. And so there's the differential along the way of altitude. And remember, the temperature, here in the Mojave Desert area, in the Southwest, the temperature goes down about 5 degrees for every 2,000 feet elevation gain. And so you got to take that into account. I am probably at this point right now, well, the top of La Madre Mountain, the summit, is about 6,000 feet higher than the Las Vegas Valley, which is where 90 degrees is predicted. So there you've got a temperature differential that is going to be occurring along the way. Now, another factor is relative humidity. When you throw your clothes in the dryer, you'll notice how the hot air is going to the hot dry air is going to dry those clothes out. If you, on a hot summer day in Las Vegas, you could take your clothes out of the washer, put them on a clothesline, and I almost guarantee you within a half hour, they will be super dry. If you got a light breeze and it's 110 degrees out there, yes, they'll be dry. That's because you've got a temperature issue, but you've also got a relative humidity issue. Now, consider those clothes in the dryer, and consider your breathing in and out, pulling air into your lungs. You're pulling dry air into your lungs. It's like your lungs are experiencing the inside of the dryer. So that requires your body to need to replace the loss of water from that dry air. And so that is going to eat up some water. So there is a factor. Now there is yet another factor, which is your level of conditioning. And my conditioning, I'm comfortable running. I run about 6 miles a day, and then do 20 to 30 mile round trips up mountains, 4,000 feet elevation gain very often, in 4,000 to 5,000 feet once a week. And so with that kind of conditioning, let's say that I was not in any conditioning and I just, was watching TV all day and very lethargic. I'm going to need more water than if I'm going to need more water than if I'm in the kind of conditioning that I'm in now. Okay, so your level of conditioning. Then another factor is your age. If I were a teenager, maybe my water needs would be less than I'm closing in on age 65 in just a few months from now. So I'm wondering if age has helps determine how much water you need. Okay, then there is also the level of, the distance that you're traveling. So you've got temperature and distance and altitude gain. That will require different water needs. And then there is, as I mentioned earlier, how much water are you carrying? The more water you carry, the more exertion that's going to require, and the more water you're going to need. However, you got to carry that water. The point is, you want to calculate your water need pretty closely so that you're not carrying too much. And so you take all these factors I've mentioned into account. And then there's also a factor of, the clothing that you're wearing. If you're wearing heavy hiking boots, okay, that is going to require more water than if you're wearing running shoes, as we have here, these trail running shoes. Okay, then did you dress too warm? I always dress cooler. I'm almost a little uncomfortable at the trailhead because I don't want to be sweating and overheating. Because if you overheat, you're going to sweat more. The water will be lost, more water. I wear running shorts and a tank top. And starting out in 55-degree temperature today, that was cold. But at this point, I've been going a couple hours, and so now I'm feeling just perfect, and I didn't overheat, so I didn't lose as much water as I would have had I dressed to where I was feeling warm in the very beginning, and that would have required wearing, carrying more clothes too. Let's say I decided, I want to be warm, I'm going to put on a jacket, and now I got to put it in my backpack. So that's the weight of your backpack. Another factor is your body weight. Now, I was last spring 20 pounds heavier than I am now. I was around 175, and that means carrying 20 pounds more everywhere that I go. Okay, if you're 40 pounds heavier than your ideal weight, then you're carrying 40 pounds everywhere you go. That's going to burn up more water. Last spring, I got down to my ideal body weight, 155. I sloughed off a little bit. I kind of snuck back up to 160. This morning, I was 156.4, 1.4 pounds above my ideal body weight, but I've kept it down. And that's a factor. Another factor is how much water did you consume the week before your adventure. And believe me, you can drink so much water during your adventure, but you need to stock up on water. And so that is another factor. You want to drink a lot of water every day the week before your adventure, and how much water you drank is also going to be a factor. So, and I think there are probably more factors along the way, but these are enough factors to say that the answer to the question, how much water do you need to carry, can become a pretty complex equation. And I think somebody who loves to crunch numbers would be able to take a shot at giving us a formula to determine how much water to carry. And, based on all those factors. And such a formula could be important because, again, if you carry too much water, that is going to burn up more energy and require a greater water use. So, how much does your backpack weigh? How much water did you carry? If you take not enough water in the Mojave Desert, especially on a hot day, then you're in a potentially life-threatening situation. And every year we hear of people who got into trouble in the desert and didn't make it home because they dehydrated. Another factor here, I just thought of another one, is how much water, how are you consuming water along the way? If your mouth begins to feel dry, then it's already almost too late, because that's one of the first signs of dehydration. If you have a headache or you get dizzy, those are other signs of dehydration. So I have a water tube, and I'm sipping quite often as I go, because my goal is that my mouth never be dry. It's kind of dry now because I've been talking so much. But anyway, that is a factor, is your water consumption strategy during your adventure. If you, for example, think, oh, I'm feeling good, I'm not thirsty, and you do not drink the water you need along the way and keep yourself hydrated, a number of things are going to happen if you let yourself dehydrate. One is that you can reach a point where you just can't replace the water fast enough, that you have lost and you're in trouble. So even though you have enough water, you haven't been drinking along the way, you are in trouble. Another factor is that, the water does a lot of things in your body. And one thing that it does is it effectively lubricates your muscles and your tendons. And I have actually experienced, there was a day where I was doing a 14-mile circuit in the Hudson River Valley in the Northeast, and up Breakneck Ridge and over to a fire tower, and then circling around. Anyway, if you're familiar with that area, you know what I'm talking about. I forgot to bring any water. Okay, so what happened is, definitely I was very thirsty, and it was in the middle of the summer, and northeastern summers can get pretty hot and humid. So that was a problem in itself. Another problem, though, kind of a hidden problem, was the next week I began to have knee and tendon issues, joint issues, and I really believe that not having that water during those 14 miles created a situation where I actually ended up injuring myself, even though I didn't realize that for a few days. Well, there are a lot of things that are happening in terms of injury that you can experience that even though you don't experience that injury for a few days, that's still hurting your body and creating demands on your body. So during your adventure. So these are just a whole lot of factors under the general heading, how much water do you need when you're out hiking? So I'm hoping that a really great number cruncher is listening to this video and can create a formula to tell us exactly how much water, or as close as possible, how much water we need based on all the factors I've mentioned. Oh, here's another factor, is your race and nationality. Not nationality, more your race. And I've got a mixture of Lebanese, which is Arab, and German and English, half English, quarter German, quarter Lebanese. And that's just, I didn't do any DNA tests, but that's just based on my parents and their origin, and mixing it all together and coming up with a stupid, simple determination. And so if, for example, you are from, Northern European heritage, you may process water differently and have different needs than if you're from the Middle East or Eastern heritage or African heritage. I don't know. Another factor, I mentioned clothing, and I forgot to mention that I have a Climacool runner's cap with a large bill, and it's very light. And so my head's covered the whole time. Now, if my head weren't covered, that would change my water needs. And then I also have a white, and the cap is white. If it were black, then that could change my water needs too, because it wouldn't reflect the sun. It would absorb heat. I have a little sheet that I've taken and put under the cap, and that sheet stretches over my ears, sides of my face, my shoulders. It's kind of like an Arab headdress, actually. That makes it so that I'm well shielded from the sun, a lot more shielded than if I did not have a cap. So the clothing that you wear, the weight of the clothing, the color of the clothing, the headgear that you're wearing, the weight of your shoes, all of those are factors that you want to factor into the answer to the question, how much water do you need? So I've given you a lot of factors. It's a complex equation. I'm sure there is a simpler approach that, maybe you can just have a gut feeling, you need to drink so much per hour and you need to carry so much, and just go with that. Sure. But I'm just curious. Is there a way to make a more intelligent determination? So there you go. How much water do you need? There's the factors. And I would love someone to come up with an equation that would help me determine exactly how much water I need based on whatever adventure I'm experiencing. So there you have it. Well, if I had any doubts whether I brought enough water, the water that I had in my Camelback is just run out. And I have, in addition, 4 additional waters. I'm going to put 3 of them into the Camelback, and you can see there's a Gatorade also. There's another water in my pack still.